Hey, what's up? It's Jake, and next thing we're going to go over is Terraform module inputs. This is pretty simple. It's basically just a way to use variables, but it's a way to use variables taking input. So underneath you got Ruby running under the hood is for your programming language, and just like any other language, it's like you can make functions with inputs, and we do that with variables file. So if you look under modules, web server cluster, go ahead and create a variables.tf file. And we're just going to start with one variable. We're going to start with a variable for the security group name. And let's say that in prod and in stage, we want two different security group names. Maybe they do the same thing today, but we want to be able to manage them independently of each other because we don't want any dependencies of non-production in our production environment. So you're just going to pass a description and a type, but you're not going to pass a value. So remember the name and then go over to your stage web server cluster main.tf file, and you're just going to add a line underneath the source for your module, and you're just going to start passing values. So we're going to do security group name, because that's what I named it in the variables file, security group name, and then I'm going to give it a value. And in this case, it's web server stage. And then I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go to my prod web server cluster main.tf file, and I'm going to do the same exact thing, except I'm going to pass it web servers -prod. And that's pretty much it. And if you wanted to, in your module now, well, not if you want to, you need to pass the variable. And so you'll remove the old name and you just inside the quotes add dollar bracket var dot the name of your security group variable, and then if you want you can put dash whatever you want after it. Like I could do dash Nimbus DevOps if I wanted to. My naming convention, I usually do things at the beginning, so it would be like NDO dash dollar. So that should show me NDO dash web servers dash stage. That's what my security group should look like. So once you get your variable updated inside of your module and you've declared a variable and your module has the variable in here, it'll look for this. You can go ahead and run a Terraform validate in your stage web server cluster and just make sure that your configuration is good. If it's not, take a look. You might want to spend some time troubleshooting or whatever. But that's pretty much it. So now if I built this environment in my stage folder, when I run Terraform apply, it's going to pull in the variables, and when from here it's going to read that I use this module and pass the variable, and then it'll deploy that, and when it creates a security group, it's going to be called web server stage. So let's run a Terraform plan and see what happens. My config's valid, but I don't know if there's any other errors. But we should see the name of the security group in the Terraform plan. So let's take a look here. So here's our security group, and we can see resource, security group, Terraform SG, ARN, egress, known, blah, blah, blah. Name, NDO, web servers, stage. Cool. So let's go change directories to prod, web server cluster. And let's also run a Terraform validate here because I didn't do that yet. Oh, look here. I got on main TF 16 web server. Oh, because I renamed it. I started messing around with what's other stuff. Module web server cluster not yet installed. Okay, so I didn't run an init for production yet. So let's do that. Remote backend initializes the web server cluster module. Now let's try to validate and see what happens. All right, we're valid. So let's run a Terraform plan. And this is for prod. If you look at my directory here, I'm in prod web server cluster. And we should see NDO web server prod for the name. And here we are, NDO web servers prod. So now I'm going to have two completely different environments, but now we're being able to start uniquely naming things. So if I were to look at this Terraform plan and say, okay, I have a listener, it just says ALB listener, Maybe I want to dynamically name the listener. I don't know, maybe you do. Maybe you want to have, let's see here, we got an auto-scaling attachment. We've got an auto-scaling group that's named Terraform ASG. So let's say we want to make a new one. So let's make a new one together. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to say ASG name. And this is just going to be the, I don't know why I did this, cluster resources, security group. This is going to be the name of ASG. Okay, so now I have a variable. So now I'm going to go into my module and I'm going to go find out where that's used. So I've got a load balancer, I've got a target group, I've got a listener, a launch template, auto scaling group, name. So I'm going to replace this with $ bracket var dot name underscore ASG. I'm just going to double check my variable. That's what I named it, ASG name. See, so it's good that it looked ASG underscore name. All right, so now when you run this module, it's going to check for this and say, hey, I need a value for name. And it's going to say you do have a value. It's the var. And be like, well, what's the var? What is that? So that's where we'd come over here and we'd create, and I'm in the stage web server cluster main.tf file. I would create ASG underscore name equals, and then I would give it a name. So I could call this ASG stage, right? And maybe I want to get fancy and go NDO dash whatever. And you don't have to do that, but up to you. And I'll do the same thing here. ASG underscore name equals ASG dash prod. I used a dash, right? Yeah. So now my auto scaling group should also be dynamically named. And it's like, okay, well, let's see if that works. So I'm in prod right now. Let's do a Terraform plan. I should have done a validate just to make sure, but that I didn't miss anything. We'll find out really quick if it's broken. Okay, so we see our NDO server prod for our security group. Let's go up to our auto scaling group, target group, load balancer, launch template, auto scaling group. So let's look for the name here. So we got our name, NDO ASG prod. Cool. Let's check out stage web Terraform plan. So you can now see how I can manage two completely separate environments, and really all I need to do is just update variables in the module, which is super handy. All right, let's check this out. Template, here we are. NDO ASG stage. Awesome. So you can keep going through this and go, well, what else can I make dynamic? Because you're going to want things to be very specific, maybe like the launch template name. Be like, okay, well, let's make a third one. Let's make a launch template name. So I'm just going to go LT name. And this is going to be the name of the launch template. Save that. I'm going to go to my module. I'm going to go find my launch template, and I'm going to change the name to $. What do I call it? LT underscore name. And then I'm going to go to stage, and I'm going to add LT underscore name equals, and I'm going to call this launch template stage. Save that. I'm going to copy this, go over to prod. Same thing, but I'm going to change the name to prod. And then maybe, again, I'll get fancy and I'll put NDO dash. I'm just doing this. I don't need it. I'm just doing this so that I can show you can mix and mash strings with, you could put stuff at the end of it, dash, whatever you want. Up to you and how you do naming conventions. Naming conventions are very important, so don't think I don't care about them. All right, so that looks good. Now I got a launch template name. So I'm in stage. Let's run Terraform plan and see if my launch template gets a new name. Okay, security group, load balancer, target group, load balancer, launch template. All right, let's look for the name. NDO launch template stage. Okay, let's check prod. Prod web. All right, let's do a Terraform plan. And let's just check and see if this works. So now you're taking your module that you've created and you made it reusable and you're making it very specific to your environment, which is super cool because, now you're getting into, let's see where you at. Yeah, NDO launch template prod. Sweet. Now you're getting into doing things dynamically, repeatably, um, and just being able to iterate over this. And you can do as many as you want. As many makes sense, right? You might want to do one for the region because region is used like in a million places. And why would you do that? Well, let's say your business is growing, and this is why module inputs are important. Let's say your business is growing, and the company decides that they're going to launch a new environment in uh, Canada, right? And they're going to do CA Central 1, and you need to deploy this exact environment, network, everything in CA Central 1. Well, if you have a module and you have all your variable inputs or module inputs defined, then all you'd have to do is create either a new repo or a new folder or however you guys are doing it. Just create a new one and you would just go into your module and you would just define this. So you could send an email to somebody or Slack them or whatever and just say, hey, I need a name for the following, and then just copy all of this that doesn't have any values and paste it and say, here's what I want you to name it. Or they probably don't care. And you can just look at, you know, maybe now you have to go, oh shit, this is a US ASG one now or whatever, and just rename everything. But even then, renaming all of your resources is very simple. So that is the basic ins and outs of doing multiple environment, same module, but variable module inputs. If you have any questions, let me know, but have fun making all of the things modular.